What's good in the hood? Welcome to the Line of Credit Show and all that malarkey 2025. In this show, I want to chat about the recent coverage on the triple lock and the new Labour appointment to the Treasury, a guy called Torsten Bell, who supposedly wants to end the triple lock. By the way, I know I sound a bit croaky on this show. That's because I've had a flu, the recent flu that was going around, and I kind of lost my voice, and it's not really come back since. So do bear with me. I do sound like I've been chain smoking for 60 years. So do bear with me. Right, triple lock, Ponzi pensions, and Torsten Bell. For those who are vague on the triple lock and what it is, I'll quickly explain it. Under the triple lock system, the state pension goes up each year by either 2.5%, the rate of inflation, or earnings growth, whichever is the highest figure out of the three. In April 2024, last April, the link to earnings meant that the state pension went up by a nice 8.5%, making it worth 220 quid for those who retired after 2016 and 170 quid for those who retired before 2016. The Labour government recently confirmed that the new full state pension will rise by £472 a year from the coming April 2025. This increase is pegged to wages, which have risen by 4.1%. So last year, the triple lock, 8.5%. This year, the triple lock, 4.1%. So as you can see, the triple lock exceeds the rate of inflation. It has most years. I will explain why I and many others believe the triple lock is deeply flawed, economically dangerous and financially unsustainable. But before I argue this, I need to explain the utter mess that is unfunded pension liabilities. According to the ONS, Britain currently has £1.2 trillion worth of public sector pension liabilities. That's what's owed to public sector workers. 75 pence in every £1 in this pension bill is unfunded. Only 25 pence in every £1 is funded. £1.2 trillion, £900 billion unfunded, £300 billion funded. Remember, public sector pensions are separate from the state pension. They're both government pensions, but they are separate. One is for public sector workers, the other is for all citizens who have paid national insurance, or as many say, paid into the system. The government has been very shady around publishing the total figure in terms of state pension liabilities because ONS recent figures go back to 2018. The ONS stated there is 4.8 trillion of state pension entitlements. If we factor in the triple lock over the last 7 years, this 4.8 trillion pound bill now ranges from 6 to 7 trillion pound. So we're looking at an unfunded government pension liabilities bill, public sector and state pension, that ranges between 6.9 and 7.9 trillion pound. What an absolute shit show, eh? Now this is where the triple lock comes into play. The triple lock applies to this 6 to 7 trillion pound state pension bill. It applies to the state pension, and it pushes up that bill every single year. This year it's going to go up £472. Next year it will go up more. And every year it will increase on each year. Now let's look at an example. Now the triple lock is way above the 2% figure. 8.5% last year, 4.1% this year. But in this example, let's work on the 2% figure. Now let's be fair about it to the government. 2% of the 6 trillion state pension bill is £120 billion. Over a 5-year period, triple lock at 2% will add at least £600 billion in unfunded liabilities onto the state pension bill. Wow. I've coined a new quote for the pension mess that we're currently in. I'm quite proud of it, actually. UK state pensions are the time bomb, and the triple lock is a timer. The triple lock will keep pushing up this bill to the point where a future government has to act on it. Because if it doesn't, state pensions will collapse, and it will take public sector pensions down with it. But at what point does a future government act? Now, we're looking at 6.9 to 7.9 trillion in pension liabilities. At what mark does the government act? Does it act on the 9 trillion mark? The 10 trillion mark? 12 trillion? At what figure does the government have to step in? Not too sure, but within the next 20 years, we're going to see this figure come into play. And at some point, a government will be forced to intervene. So, this is why I believe, and many others believe, the triple lock needs to be abolished. Because it is a timer connected to a time bomb that could eventually blow up our pension system and the whole economy. This isn't doom and gloom and doomsday waffle talk. This is pure mathematics. And mark my words, the maths doesn't give two flying fucks about our feelings. Pensions are very personal to some people. Now, maybe as a millennial, I don't identify with that, but I'm a millennial, so I'll probably say a lot of older people, there is some sort of justification in why they feel a bit personal when it comes to the pensions. But as Michael Corleone says, it's business, not personal. My generation didn't create this Ponzi scheme. My generation didn't spunk hundreds of billions of pounds in national insurance contributions on a nanny welfare state. A pandemic lockdown. We didn't do that. My generation didn't lie to the people and pretend there is a magical pension pot. So, why should it be my generation and Generation Z who will be liable for this bill? Well, a large chunk of this bill. This isn't a political party issue. You know what? It's not even an ideological issue. Both Labour and the Tory party are to be blamed for this. They have been fully aware of this, and they did and still do nothing about it. So this is on their heads. Not the Reds' head, not the Blues' head, the uni-party head. Going all the way back to Tony Blair. By the way, Maggie Thatcher and John Major get a free pass on this one with me, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Don't take my word on this. Please, you know what? Please don't take my word on this. Find the material yourself. Find the ONS numbers. They're out there. It's quite easy to find them, actually. And sit down, work out the maths yourself. It won't take that long. You will come to the same conclusion as I've come to. Boomers and Generation X have the ability to put their head in the sand with this one. But us millennials and Generation Z, we don't have that luxury. If we don't act now, my generation won't have a state pension. That's the reality with that one. A number of people over the years have asked me, especially when I tell them about the unfunded state pension liabilities and the public sector pension liabilities we've got out there and how they are in the trillions. But a number of people have asked me over the years, but Mike, why isn't the trillions of public sector pension debt and state pension debt factored into the UK public debt? The UK public debt currently stands at 2.8 trillion. The reason is because the trillions in unfunded pension liabilities isn't legally and accounting wise a debt. It is a promise in the form of an off balance sheet liability. It is officially a welfare. and the state pension comes under the welfare state. Tell that one to a boomer and watch them go crazy. Watch them go nuts when they get told that their state pension is a benefit, a welfare payment, a handout. It's because for years and years and years they've not been aware of this. They don't know that they've paid into a system that has paid that money to previous pensioners. There's no written contract between you and the government. I've not written out a contract with me and the government. A contract that states that the government must pay me a pension when I retire. It's just a promise. A promise a future government can welch on. This is why the trillions of pension debt isn't held on the UK balance sheet, specifically the liabilities section. If it were, the total UK public debt bill would exceed £10 trillion. The state pension is a welfare, not a contractual obligation. Mark my words, it is not and will never be within the government's interest to combine pension debt with public debt, because the end result will be, as I mentioned, a public debt bill that exceeds £10 trillion. 5 years ago, not many media outlets or people were talking about this time bomb, and unfunded UK state pension liabilities and public sector pension liabilities is a dangerous time bomb. But I have slowly watched the tide turn over the years, and more media outlets and people are starting to talk about it. The Telegraph, Financial Times and other mainstream media outlets have been covering it. LBC's Tom Swarbrick has been open about this subject on his show. The same with the Taxpayers Alliance, they've covered this a bit. I recommend you read the latest Telegraph article on this. A conservative media outlet being honest about the dire state of the UK public sector pension bill. That's how the tide is slowly turning if the Telegraph's coming out with that one. It's a very good piece. It's by a guy called Brian Monteith. It's called, let me get it up. The headline is, public sector pensions are a gross injustice that can no longer be ignored. It's a good headline, and it's bang on the money. Brian argues that Labour must rid Britain of this gold-plated generational wealth transfer. Give it a read. It's a very, very good article. Back to the triple lock and Labour's new appointment, Torsten Bell. Fancy name. The new appointment was met with some criticism because Torsten Bell called for the triple lock to be replaced. In a Resolution Foundation paper in 2020, his think tank, Bell said the triple lock is not a sensible mechanism for pensions uprating. I like the sound of it and I totally agree, even though Torsten Bell, he sounds like a bit of a douchebag. And he's a red Labour head, so not really a lover of anyone who's Labour. But he gets my thumbs up. Torsten Bell argued that it would be better to replace the lock with a smoothed earnings link that would maintain the peg to earnings over the medium term. To me, this translates into TB advocating for the triple lock to kick in after a few years of a person retiring, which is the medium-term part of what he says. That's what I get for this. In late 2023, TB's think tank made the same point with a report arguing that benefits for working-age people had not kept pace with inflation for years. In the report, it said ultimately the state pension and working-age benefits should be uprated under one consistent policy. Switching pensions to the same smoothed earnings linked proposed for working age benefits would gradually save 0.5% of GDP compared to the current plans by the 2040s, offsetting half of the higher cost that comes from pegging working age benefits to wages. In summary, the report advocates for the state pension to be treated as the same as working age benefits. So, essentially, they want to replace a triple lock with the same system used for working age benefits. Not something I would go for. I could probably find a better policy, like abolishing triple lock overall. But it is in the right direction. The notion of wanting to save money and advocating for a change kind of sells me a bit. Will Torsten Bell apply his belief in his think tank's policy to the current system? Will he try to make good on his ideological belief around pensions? I highly doubt it. But at least the subject's on the radar. At least it's trending over Twitter. And at least it's getting coverage. Well, some little coverage in the news. Here are a few little tweets I've grabbed from Twitter for people who have been, not so welcoming of Torsten Bell because of his view and statements on the triple lock. But there has been some who have been welcoming of him. The subject was trending under the headline, Triple Lock heats up with new pensions minister. The first one I found is by a guy called John Longworth, chairman of the Independent Business Network of Family Businesses. Sounds a bit fancy. Here's his tweet. Triple lock in danger as Starmer appoints pensions minister who wanted to abolish it. The first pensions that need sorting are the unaffordable, gold-plated public sector pensions. Second tweet from an account called Triple Lock Pensions. Triple lock in danger as free gear kit. I like that one. Free gear kit. I'm going to nick that one. Sorry. Triple lock in danger as free gear kit appoints pensions minister who wanted to abolish it. I've got another one here by Jane Merrick from the iPaper. New pensions minister Torsten Bell once described the state pension triple lock as a silly system. It is a silly system. I've got another one here somewhere. I thought it was quite funny. Here by a lady called Lee Keystone. Be afraid. Be afraid. Be afraid. There's a lot of evil in this Labour government and much of it is yet to come. Triple lock in danger as Starmer appoints pensions minister who wanted to abolish it. And here's another one I found, the last one, by certified financial planner David Hearn. David Hearn, CFP. It is a silly system. State pension triple lock was described as a silly system by new pensions minister. So there's a certified financial planning guy saying, well, the triple lock is a silly system. Maybe we ought to take something from that. If you've got a spare 5 to 10 minutes, pop on Twitter, X, and have a look at what people are saying and their reaction to Torsten Bell's appointment. It's quite an eye-opener. I'm going to send this show to Torsten Bell. No, I'm just a small-time schmuck. Yeah, I know that. With a couple of thousand good and loyal followers. So I doubt he will listen to it. But if the rare chance of him listening to this show does occur, then I'll speak to you directly, Torsten. Don't get scared. Boomers are going to go absolutely ape shit if you make good on your statement. Or at least exploring implementing a change. Boomers will go ape shit. Gen X will follow suit. The Tory party and Reform party will fall in line behind the Boomer and the Gen X vote. Then Labour MPs will distance themselves from you. You'll be stuck in the land of Ponzi pensions. All alone in the wilderness. But stand tough. Contrary to what you and others may assume, there is a large demographic of us who agree with you and want to end the triple lock. mainly millennials and Generation Z, but we are out here. Maybe reach out to this group. So there we have it, listeners. By the way, if you have a good argument and some numbers that feed into what I'm saying, then please reach out to me. I love to speak with new people who agree with me on this one, and those who disagree with me. And for those who think I'm some sort of horrible anti-boomer dickhead, well, I love you too, but please don't hate me. Remember, it's not personal, it's mathematics. It's not about the feelings, it's about the numbers. I'm going to do a lot more shows this year. Now it's a new year. Last year, 2024, killed me with work and projects. But on the flip side, it was a very, very lucrative year for me. So I'm probably going to spew out 3 to 4 shows per month. And I've got some bangers on the way. So keep your eye out and have a prosperous week. Laters.